G'day guys, coming to you from behind the goods shed with Allynwood modelling. Just thought I'd do something different for the intro. We've got to continue looking on at that Cobalt Alpha system and making up some control panels. This, by the way, is the goods area that I've been working on for the last few weeks. No one here finished, so just bear that in mind.
Okay, so we skipped forward a little bit here. What I've done is I've put the schematics of my track diagram, where the crossovers go, where the points go, and where I want the switches. On the other control panel that you just saw, I actually used a drill to drill out the switches, and on this white plastic it was a little rough. It just had a tendency to chew it, even though that was a new drill bit. So what I've done this time is I've used a punch. I don't know if you can see that there. This is a 6mm punch. It's simply a case of putting it where I wanted the hole, hitting it with a hammer, and it's brought it open a little bit smoother. So now with the installation of our switches, what our next job, I found that when I was putting the switches into the other control panel, it was a bit hard to get them central. So what I am going to do is I'm going to put these little collar inserts in first, and I'm going to actually glue them down this time so they don't fall out while I'm inserting it. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue those in. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the Super Tack glue. Okay, so these have all dried, and now what we're going to do is going to have a close look at the Cobalt Alpha switch itself. It's got two little holes on the other side here, but it's also got this white thing here which you can actually peel off like that, and that is our little adhesive pad. So the first step is see how this is going to mount in the back to make sure that we've got nice clearance, and then to stick that down. Now from last time I did figure out that it's actually easier to wire up your switch before you screw it into here, because when you've got somewhere like here where there's quite a few switches close together, trying to get this little tiny wire in afterwards can really be quite hard. So remember that the pins are offset. I cannot stress that enough, that the pins are offset. What you don't want to do is break a little pin. So line them up, push him in, make sure he's home. Okay, so we're going to install it on this one here. So I can put him that way, I can put him that way, I can put him that way. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I'm going to try to keep all my cables towards the middle. So this one, I'm just going to line up so central to that hole, and let the adhesive do its work. Once he's in, can you hear that click? Make sure that he actually works before you screw him down. Then it's just a case of turning him over, popping two little screws in there. Now even on MDF, you should be able to screw these straight in, and all that you're doing is just giving it a little bit of support. Make sure that you do not A, drop your screw, and B, over tighten it. You just want it to take up the tension. If you over tighten them, it'll kick off to one side, and you just want to make sure that that switch works. Same procedure on the rest of them. Now I will mention that the DCC Concepts have a video on making a control panel. The way that they do it is using 3mm MDF. I've gone for the white plasticard. It's actually called something else, but it's a white 3mm panel. It needs to be 3mm. If you look, it's damn proud. Using the punch on the plastic has actually helped to reset these collars, and that's actually worked out in my favour, because now it's just that little 1mm proud, so you can easily hear that. You can now actually hear it clicking. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest, and then we'll come back. Here we are with the board as it's looking. All the switches are in. I'm just checking that they're all working. Yep, they're all wired up. That's how the back looks here. So, what's next, I hear you say? Well, here's the trick. Where's my pointer? Where we have our turnouts, here, here, and here, pressing this switch is going to actually activate the crossover section. So the train will come along the outer line, cross over to the inner line and carry on going. Same here on the station line, it'll come along the station line, leaving the station, go over the turnout onto the other line. That's by pressing these. Now by pressing this one or this one, it's going to cancel out the actual turnover. So pressing this one or this one, the train is going to continue along either of these parallel lines. Now, on your Cobalt Alpha, on the Cobalt Alpha switch, we've only got 12 sockets for 6 addresses. And I've got 3 leads. Somebody just sent me a message. No. Where was I? Okay, yes, so we've only got 12 and we've got 3 wires coming off 3 switches here. So basically what we have to do is join the wire from this switch and this switch together. How do we do that when it's got sockets on the end? Well, DCC in their wisdom made a product. This is the product here. This is the Alpha switch wire adapters. In there, if I open him up, you get 3 extra wires. It's very good because I needed one. And you get 3 little leads. Now you can snap these off or cut them so they're all individual. I'm going to leave them together and I'm actually going to put them in the middle of the board here somewhere. So I'm going to wire them up and then do that just so they're neat and they're not hanging. So really easy to do. I'll show you on this crossover here. So this crossover, I'm going to show you on the back. So it's this wire and this wire that we want to go together. So for each one of these, we have 2 in, 1 out. So these 2 in, and then one of the cables that come with it, one of these out. Okay, so let's just do that. Again, most important, make sure you get the pins the right way up. And they just push in like that. Pins the right way up. Don't be fooled. If you notice here, I've got red and red, so they're not the same. If I turn this cable around, they will be the same. So don't presume that red goes on the left or red goes on the right. Always check your pins. Our last 3 wires, which leaves me 2 spare, just go into the other side. Pins up the top, 1. I'll show you what I mean if you turn them around, then depending on which end you're putting in, you can get all the reds on the one side. Yeah. If you're really, sorry, may have been off camera then. Okay, so I'll just put those 3 wires into there. So now I've got 2 inputs. I've got 2 inputs there, and last but not least I've got 2 inputs there for 3 turnodes. This one here is just a single motor, so it's not a turnode, so I only need the 2 switches, and therefore I've only got 2 inputs. Okay, so that gives me 4 addresses. Okay, 1 address, 2 address, 3 address, 4 address. Okay, now all these wires here, let me turn that around again. All these wires here clip into there. But I'll give you a hint. Wire your 3-wire cable up before you clip them in. The last thing I'm going to do with my actual alpha panel is find somewhere convenient, probably in there, just to stick this down. And all I'm going to use to pop that down is a little bit of double-sided tape. And there we have it. One control panel. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and wire up, I'm going to pop that aside. So just to recap, with your alpha switch, these are screw inputs. So you need a flat blade screwdriver, you need your lengths of 3-core wire. Now, on each screw terminal is L, C and R. Can you see that? You can see them there. L, C and R. So whatever colour wire goes into L on your Cobalt alpha switch needs to go into the corresponding L on your Cobalt alpha encoder. So I'm just going to go and wire these up. I only need 4. I've got 6. I only need 4 because I've only got 4 addresses. Remember that. And then we'll wire it into the Cobalt alpha, and then that's the entire wiring done. 2 control panels, 1 Cobalt alpha, and we'll click our switches and we'll make sure they work. Okay, nothing really fancy about stripping the wiring. I have to split the ends of my cable, but I also find that makes it easier to get them in. So, and you're taking about 1 centimetre. So, just break it. Snip about 1 centimetre off. Twist. And pull at the same time. A nice end of the cable. So one end short, one end longer. So we're going to insert it into this terminal block here. Alright, I'm going to keep the common theme with my red being L, my green being C, my black being R. What does L, C and R mean? It could be left, common and right. It could be lemons, currants and raspberries. Doesn't really matter. All that you have to remember is that L matches on this, same colour wire matches the L on the encoder. If not, everything's going to be back to front, upside down, and you're not going to be happy. Alright, so I've just loosened off those terminals. You can see the points that they go in there. Now if you're very good, you can get all 3 in at once. Ooh, got a straight wire on that one. I'm just going to neaten him up. Doesn't really matter if you can do 3 at once or 1 at a time. I always think it's probably better. Okay, see how that doesn't want to go any further? This possibly is a little too long. So what I'm going to do, using my wire snippers, I'm going to snip a little bit off the end of each. Okay, now pop him in, hold a little bit of tension on him, and then, hope you can see that, tighten that terminal block up. Do the same with green. Alright, so now I'm going to go and put all the rest of those wires in. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with my wiring. I haven't got any stray wires crossing over to the other terminals. Insulation goes all the way up there, so I'm pretty happy with that. So is there an address 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Doesn't really matter, I think, where you put them in. When you hook it up to your encoder, it's your encoder that actually gives the addresses. These are just terminal or wires from your switch, so I don't think it really matters. What we do now is we go back to our control panel and we put our matching inputs in with this. So we're not going to be using these 4 or those 2 outputs. So this control panel's only got four addresses on it. Okay, but first I'm going to go put these other wires, I'm going to strip them, I'm going to pop them into the encoder. Okay, this is our Cobalt Alpha encoder, and the other control board is already wired up. So just recapping what we have on here, this is our power supply. This is our power supply here, positive in the center. This is our RG12 socket for communicating to the sniffer. These are our input addresses. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 addresses. What else have we got on the board here? We've got an on-off switch. We've got a display which will give you a cab address or your accessory address. So we use this to allocate where the addresses are going to start from. Defaults to address 1. Alright, what else have we got? We have an input socket here, and on this side we have an output socket. So if you wanted to daisy chain a few of these together, because you've got more than 12 addresses, then you can use the cable that comes with that. What else we got? This socket here is for extending this display. So if you're going to put this, like I will, mounted under a board, you can actually get an external display with a little cable plugs in there so you can see what address you're operating at. The other way to do that is to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on your control panel. Or the illuminated switches should do it. So I'm not going to go with that. So what we're going to do at the moment is, because I've got 2 separate control panels, I'm going to see if I can start from here and skip this input here. Otherwise I'm just going to get confused. So this one goes, these inputs that are already in go off to one control panel, these ones go off to the other. It really is simple. Like I said before, you can see on top here L, C and R. So on our Cobalt panel, L was red. So we need to make sure that the red goes in, so we're going in that way. Push that down, push that in, spring, there we go, he's in. Green was next. Push him in all the way, give him a tug, yep. This should theoretically be the easiest thing of the whole part. This probably will be easier if I wasn't trying to show you on the camera at the same time. So red's in. Green's in. Black's in. This was the first control board I made up to. Switches, wires going to the Cobalt Alpha switch. Wires on the Cobalt Alpha switch going to the Cobalt encoder. Other Cobalt Alpha switch, panel, wires will go into there. Everything is now wired up to this. What we'll do next time is that we'll look at connecting this to the sniffer and our DC bus and seeing if it works. Okay. Quickly just going to go and plug these in. So that panel is now on there, that panel sits on there. This is how it's going to look. This in the centre and my two control panels. Oh, you can't see. Okay. Alright. Last but not least, just got to wire this one in. Make sure that all our switches are illuminating.
Okay,
Sweet.
so we're just going to put some power onto the DC input. See, it's written there, DC input.
They're marked positive and negative. It's just important that we get them run the right way. These are the same as wiring up the other ones. It's a screw terminal. Strip the wire. I'm going to put the positive in first. Screw him up. Now, there's my long negative one. There it is. I like to keep consistency with the rest of my power, and the black is negative and red is positive. You could use different colours, you could use different gauge. It's not carrying a lot of current, so it doesn't really need to be heavy gauge wire. What I'm using is actually solenoid cable or hookup wire. They're reasonably thin. That's a bit on the hook. Okay, so those are fixed. Big moment of truth. Plug it in and see what we have. Let's turn that on. Let's turn that on. So far, everything is lining up. And if we turn it over, voila, these are our switches. So, and if you can see the display on here, when I push the switch, it gives you the address number. So this is address 7. This is address 8. This is address 10. And this is address 9. 7, 8, 10, 9. I could go and swap these two over. It would just be a case of changing these two inputs, and then it will go 7, 8, 9, 10. These are my two boards. Okay. So let's try that again. Watching the display here. Turn the display on. That would help. Let that go through this little thing. Okay, so here we have 7. Then we have 8. Now we have 9. And now we have 10. So they all work. Bring the sniffer into. Technically all I need to do now is connect bus wires up to here, connect my point motors to those bus wires, and we should be ready to rock and roll with addressing them and going. But I'm going to leave my spaghetti maze here. I'm going to look at tidying things up, hard mounting these boards onto other boards so they're not floating around in the breeze, and I'll do that. How you do that is entirely up to you. I'm going to use the board that they're on, and I'm going to use some smaller strips of MDF here, like this. So what I'm going to do is mount the alpha switch board to that. Pop you all up this way then. So I'm going to mount the alpha switch board to that. Then I'm going to raise mount this over the top, so that's going to become one unit. And that will be a unit like that, separate. I'm going to hard mount this into the control area, and I'm going to do the same thing with another piece of MDF for this switchboard over this side. Then when we do that, we'll alter our power and rotate our power and hardwire everything in. Okay, I hope all that made sense. Fairly long, fairly involved. Like, subscribe, dislike if you want. Please give me comments. If you found it useful, let me know. If I confused you, let me know. There's not many videos on YouTube to do with this system. The DCC Concepts talks about an NCE control system and plugging into that. It doesn't really have that much on your own DC bus or DCC bus for your points being a separate thing. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want to run it through my controller. That way, if I ever upgrade my controller, I'm just upgrading the controller for the locos, not for the points. But here we have it. The beginnings of the system.